Gary, just let me ask you because I'd like to tell people your age often because I think you look impressive for your age, and I hope I look as good as you. You're 87, and you've been seeing and watching for a long time.
A long time.
And so and this isn't, you were there in 88, you were there in 94, you were there in Harold Camping 2011.
Sure.
I mean, what was your impression with all these date setters, and how did you manage it?
Quite frankly, I was skeptical from the very beginning, and this is going back into the late 60s. And well, actually, you could track it back to the late great Planet Earth and Hal Lindsey.
Yeah, basically 1970, basically. Mm-hmm.
And from the 60s, people were beginning to get excited because Israel was once again back in the land. And they made all kinds of extravagant predictions about what was going to happen to Israel. And then moving ahead, this resulted in a lot of people saying, well, how long is the church going to be here if Israel's back in the land? Mm-hmm. And people are writing prophecy books and prophecy articles that are really exciting. Of course, the next step is, how long? And you go to your friends and you sit down and you talk with them. I've been thinking about this, and I think the rapture is really, really close based on what's happening. And the friend says, yes, I do too. Well, you've been in dozens of conversations like that. And then it's possible to leap beyond reasonable and rational conjecture. It's possible to become so excited that you say, if this happens, then that's got to happen. And so, I just read a book, so-and-so said that when you see this, then it's, we're within a couple of months of the rapture. And that's the lead-in to what becomes date setting, really.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of that lately. Now, I'm not offended by date setting. But on the other hand, I don't want people to be disappointed. I don't want them to turn around and go back home and say, I'm never going to study Bible prophecy again because, I've looked and I've watched and nothing happened. We don't want to go that direction. So, and by the way, you're an expert at this. I've read some things you've written. You put limits on speculation.
Indeed, yes.
That probably goes back to seminary. You've got to be cautious. Mm-hmm. But still, you got to look forward because it's in the Bible. And now, what's the balance? That's
that is a perfect word, and is balance. That's why we're really the discussion is watching with wisdom. So we're not discouraging people to watch. Well, of course not. That's what the Bible says. But I think you might give me too much credit, Gary, in that. One of the reasons that I'm very sensitive to date setting is because I was one of those. And so it's out of my own failure and my own, I saw the ramifications of that back in the 90s. I was only a Christian for, maybe 6 or 7 years old I got saved in 93. So I was watching the year 2000 approach. I had a lack of experience, we'll say it that way, which lack of experience in theology or even in the Christian life led me to make some immature mistakes. And that was, again, everybody should be excited. But I started looking, 2000 for sure. And then at the time, I remember I was leading a Bible study and I was teaching, I was probably in my early 20s. And I was teaching the high school kids, and I was teaching the book of Revelation. So this is like 1997 or 1998. And so here I have these young, impressionable students, and I'm teaching them, these things. And of course, naturally, the question is when? And so I made a comment to them, oh, man, most likely the year 2000, but guaranteed by 2010. Okay. And so, and they would ask me, so Mondo, should I even go to college? Like, you don't even need to go to college. Why would you go to college? The Lord's coming back. And so the Lord, I got obviously shamed. And I learned something there which again, in my zeal, Romans 10 in a different context, but I like the phrase, I had zeal without knowledge. And a lot of that was experiential knowledge. And so I think this is what causes me to be extra sensitive to that and to try to discourage date setting because thankfully, most of those students didn't listen to me, right? But there's real damage that is done. And so as the years gone by, and of course the Lord called me to be a pastor, and there was more date setting, again, like 2011 with the guy, Harold Camping.
Harold Camping,
May
for
of
sure.
2011. I saw the mocking. I saw that people getting excited. I saw the damage there. And so here, I guess my mentality in a lot of this is, hey, look, you can watch, but you can also be irresponsible in your watching. You can be careless, and you could cause damage to the body of Christ, which, I did. But then secondly, a lot of these people who make date predictions, or most of the time they're like, oh, I'm not setting a date, but they are suggesting dates. And so they talk about these high watch times, which is not in the Bible at all. So they come up with these new words. And it's like, well, hey, Feast of Trumpets ended yesterday. So you know what, Gary, I don't need to worry about anything for the next 11 months, 12 months, because it's not a high watch time. That's ridiculous. It's actually very contradictory to the Bible, where we're told to be ready at all times.
Well, the thing about date setting, and first of all, it's a motivator and must be exercised with wisdom. The Bible is full of anniversaries and dates and intervals of years, and they all play into the overall picture of Bible prophecy. And we have a statement like 1 Thessalonians 5, but of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. Oh, really? I wish you had written to me.
Right.
But why do we have no need that someone write to us about the times and seasons? Because, and that this is the follow-up I wanted to lay down. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. So that's sort of giving us something to watch for or to look at. And little things like this in the Bible can take you maybe farther than you should go. Of course, this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and Paul is putting us at ease. He's saying, look, you don't have to get upset. You don't have to become so involved in watching that you just become paralyzed. It should be a common sense enterprise, but he doesn't say quit watching.
No, exactly. In fact, he says that later in verse 6. I'm glad you brought this passage up, because I think this is kind of the key. Is, in Acts chapter 1, verse 6 and 7, you see the disciples are excited. Jesus is resurrected here, man. Here he is. He's come. He's walked with them for 40 days now. And they ask him a question. Are you now going to restore the kingdom to Israel? And Jesus says very clearly, it is not for you to know the times and the seasons, what the Father has put under his own authority. So basically, you're interested in the timing. The answer is no. I'm not giving you the timing. End of the story. I mean, that is so crystal clear. And people say, well, wait. Was that for them? What about for us? Maybe we could know. Well, in 1 Thessalonians 5 here, Paul again says, let me just reiterate what you just read, Gary, because he says this, concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you. Now, why does he say that? He's not saying, well, I have no need to write to you because you already know what those signs are. That's not what he's saying. If you follow it, he says, for you yourselves, and this is why okay? I'm not going to write to you about the times and seasons, church, for this reason, because you yourselves perfectly know that the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night. What he's saying is, when it comes, this day of the Lord is going to come as a thief. It's going to come as a surprise. That's what a thief does. And so the context, he says, listen, that day is going to come as a surprise. So I don't need to tell you about that. But he does say, for when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. What he's saying there, well, let me just read because he gets into it. You are all sons of the light and sons of the dark, or sons of the day. We are not of the night, of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober. So what he's saying is, if you are ready, if you're watching every single day, you're watching for this season, you're watching for the soon return of the Lord, whatever that might be, and that he's writing this in the first century. He's saying when that day actually does come, you're not going to be surprised. Because why? You're ready every single day. You're not ready only on a high watch day.
Right.
You're ready every single day of the year, 365. So he says, so if you're watching every single day and that day comes, you are not going to be surprised. Why? Because you are exuberant, you're excited, you're going to love the Lord's appearing. So even 1 Thessalonians 5 is not so much telling us about what the signs and seasons are. He's simply saying, I have no need to write about that because it's irrelevant, because you're going to be ready on that day.